Hey, White Sox fans, the countdown is over. We are here for our monthly podcasts outlook. This is Sox Pop on the Farm number 64. We're taking a look at August. And of course, with me is the person responsible, really, for this podcast. I'm going to talk a lot, but he's really the reason we're here because he does all of our weekly, he does a nightly, once a week review of each game in the system. But of course, he does our weekly and monthly. Oh, and he does affiliate wrap-ups. Say if you're really Rookie League super fans, you've read Joe Reese's work on the DSL and the ACL already this year, and he's got something else for you before the year's out because, of course, a season can't end for the Winston-Salem Dash without Joe Reese's weighing in on that as well. So Joe, oh, by the way, Joe did all of our coverage tonight. He did our 60-second little video thingamabobber, and he also did our game thread and recap at Southside Sox. So slightly busy, but looking more energetic than me. So thank you, Joe. When I pass out, you can just keep talking and wind up the podcast. But thanks for all the work tonight, including what is to come here on this podcast.
Yes, my pleasure. Good evening.
All right. That's why we call him Super Joe. He's it's not just for his math knowledge and his analytical knowledge and his ability to crunch the numbers and his Sox math championships. It's because of his super attitude. This is where Joe can take a nap because he's fatigued, because we're just going to run down how the affiliates are doing. We still have 4 active, so let's talk about them as briefly as I can do it. The Charlotte Knights have petered out. They made a run at 500, but they're going to fail. In the second half, they're 24-36 as of recording here on Friday night. What night is it? It's Friday night. You can tell me and Joe we like to party because it's late on a Friday. And we're talking White Sox prospects for a sort of lousy system. Anyway, 24-36. They're in last place in their 10-team division in the International League East. 19th out of 20 among all teams in the International League. Negative 57 run differential. Not a great second half. Come on, Sergio. Overall, 60-75 for the year. 7th out of 20. 7th in their division out of 10. Not great. Tied for 13th out of 20. Also not great. Negative 70 run differentials. Second half has been taking a pretty bad turn for the Knights. You can say roster churn or whatever, but then I don't know. I'm not really sure from player to player. The talent's really being affected too terribly as call-ups happen. But I don't know. The White Sox are doing well. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit, Joe, instead of this system. Birmingham Barons in Double-A. Goodness gracious. Unbelievable second half they've had. In first place, of course, at 38-22. Yeah, that's by far the best in the Southern League. Plus 57 run differential. Well done, Barons, because you sort of petered out in the first half, but overall 76-53. That is still best now in the Southern League, fueled by that second half. Good for them. Leading the Southern League North, leading the Southern League, going to the playoffs. Thank you, Barons. We have something to cover for another extra week or two, and we can pretend our prospect system is terrific and loaded because only because of you. Plus 102 run differential there. On the other hand, in Winston-Salem, High A, 29-32, second half. Hey, man, they're making a run, getting that influx of even draft, but definitely low A talent. The best of low A is coming up to high A. Maybe there's even a bit of a log jam where only so many guys can get up to Birmingham or so quickly. Guys like maybe Jeral Perez, who we'll talk about later. Perhaps warranted, but hey, where is he going to play? These guys got to play. Fourth place in the South Division. 8th out of 12 teams. Not great. Plus 4 run differential, even though they have a losing record. Strange thing about the Dash this year. 54-72 overall. 5th in their division. Tied for 10th out of 12 teams in the Sally. Negative 51 run differential. Objects are closer than they appear. They're sort of finding ways to lose this year. But turning around here in the second half somewhat. Low A, Kannapolis Cannonballers, 30-33 here in the second half. That's still just 5th in the division. Everything's pretty jammed together there in the Carolina League. 8th of 12 in the league, plus 2 run differential in the second half here. 62-67 overall for the year. That's in last place in their South Division in the Carolina League and 10th of 12 teams. Not great. Not a terrible record. So again, those teams are just jammed together. It's low A. Come on. Does winning or losing even matter? Yes, it does. Maybe we'll talk about that again. Every time I talk to Joe, I got to talk about why don't the teams in the system win? So he'll have to talk me off the ledge again. +3 run differential, despite being five worse than 500. We've talked, I think, about the ACL, but DSL also wrapped up. Both teams finished with winning records, not overwhelmingly. ACL 33 and 27. They were tied for first in their division, but through some bizarre, I think it was just runs scored. I don't know what the tiebreaker was. I guess I should figure that out. Some weird tiebreaker, though. They were tied for division lead. They did not make the playoffs. They were tied for first in the ACL West, +26 run differential, but they've been finished for a while. DSL just ended, 29 and 26, 8 billion teams in the Dominican League. They finished fourth in the DSL Southwest Division. And they were tied for 26th out of 52 teams. So if that don't say middling, but better than some years the DSL White Sox have had because they have been bad some years. So well done, rookie leagues. We need teams winning more than they're losing, even if it's all the way down to rookie ball. We have three such teams this year, and the rookie leagues are two of them. Maybe we should start counting like ACE program teams or something for winning teams because, man, we just don't have many of them, Joe. Okay, well, that's our intro. I think rather than jumping around the way maybe we have or when we have more people to talk to on these podcasts, boy, we've whittled it down from to five to now just two, Joe. What's happening? This attrition this season wears us down, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. Let's start at Charlotte, which has been a disappointing season, but well, the hitters love it. Bad hitters go to Charlotte and they hit because, like, wow, I love it here. Jacob Amaya is a threat with the Charlotte Knights. But I think one person I want to talk about right off is one who just got called up, had a really great game tonight as we record in center field. This is going to lead to perhaps a White Sox question, even though this is just a farm podcast. But first, Dominic Fletcher, who was our player of the month, even though, and he was also a player of the week in August as well, but he was the August player of the month. What'd you see about him that was so impressive? He's sort of just really grinded it out all year, some ups and downs. But he's even pitched. He's gotten a save. I mean, the guy's sort of done it all. He's put his head down and worked to get back into the major leagues.
Yeah, it's been quite a year. Yeah, Fletcher, he does play a premium position in center, and from that standpoint, that was he was a very reliable hitter. Like he was nothing off the charts. I mean, we've
Mhm.
certainly had better hitters in Charlotte this season, but I mean, for him to play center field and do it pretty well as he's done, has been, make give he's good at a few different things. So, that certainly has value for sure. Certainly August was a great month for him. And really, we've started seeing the power sort of re-emerge, really to a level that actually we hadn't really seen at all, for the most part in his career. 17 homers in AAA in 105 games. We hadn't really seen that much power from him in the past, and two doubles to start his major league stint in 2025. Certainly played a pretty decent role in the victory on Friday. So it's certainly has been. I kind of thought that he'd make an appearance at the major league level earlier than this.
Yeah.
But really, it was this sort of hot streak that he went on in August was well timed for the September call ups, and I think it's better late than never with him, and I'm glad he got the promotion and that he's off to a very good start.
Wonder how it feels when you're a guy who's been in the majors, or he's sort of a borderline major leaguer as he was in 2024, ups and downs, and you see a bunch of guys getting signed, and not particularly great names. Obviously, it'd be quite a bummer if superstars get signed because you are out of a job. But when even sort of the middling guys, and I'm sorry, that's also like a Mike Talkman. I mean, we didn't know what these guys were going to produce. The Austin Slaters, and then a number of different sorts of retreads, Greg Jones Jr., Corey Jolk's back, just a bunch of guys from the mix. And you expect that, and you've always competed, but that's a gut punch. I mean, that does probably make you look in the mirror and say, okay, wow, I did not inspire enough in the White Sox to say, not to hand a job, but man, we want to have like options A, B, C, D, E, and F. And that can go a lot of different ways. And we've seen a number of White Sox prospects and players who take it the other way, and it eats them up. And good for him in fighting back. Let's tie this into a White Sox issue, Joe, because why not? Luis Robert Jr. has a $20 million option. It's been subject of debate among our staff. I'm sure it is among fans, because that is not a small option. It's, for anyone, for any team, definitely not the White Sox, which would be roughly a third to a half of what their projected payroll for 2026 would be, as embarrassing as it is to say. Luis's strengths and weaknesses are well documented. We probably don't have to go through them. I have made myself as part of I don't have a strong feeling. I guess you could say I straddle the fence, but if I had to choose, I would not take that option. I have seen enough. I think that money, especially for the White Sox, I don't know if it'll be spent better elsewhere, but it can be spent elsewhere. First, I want your thoughts on Luis's future, but I want, as it ties into what anyone is doing in the minors, that could be Braden Montgomery going bananas at AA, say, to end the season, which up talks him into the 2026 picture to a degree. It could be Dominic Fletcher playing a very solid, okay, let's say a month, but playing a very solid month in the outfield for the White Sox. Let's say elbowing past Brooks Baldwin, who apparently is the default outfielder, guy when the White Sox need one. So from those two aspects, how do you weigh in on what the future, I guess, of center field is going to be for the White Sox?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I really don't have that strong of a preference on the $20 million option either. I would also lean towards not picking it up. The main reason is just due to how many games he has missed, and I don't really, yeah, I'm not holding my breath for Luis Robert Jr. to have a season where um, he is really playing most of the time, which, I mean, these past
Yeah.
two seasons as well, he's not been terrific at the plate. In fact, he's been below average with the weighted runs created plus in the 80s in both 2024 and 2025. Like, he's still been a solid player due to the defense in center field during those 2 years. But I mean, for someone who misses a lot of playing time, he just has a long track record of having unfortunate injuries rear their head. It's tough to justify that at 20 million. I think if I had more faith that he would, stay healthy for the vast majority of a season, I think it would be justified in that case, but I just don't at this time. And in terms of center field, yeah, Dominic Fletcher, he very well could be a front runner next year. I feel like, in fact, he's probably the most likely option at this moment in time, unless they pursue someone in free agency this upcoming off season. And I think he would be for a team that isn't expecting to compete immediately. I think he would be an okay you know plan A to start a season at the major league level in center field. Wouldn't be anything to write home about, but I think he'd do well enough to hold down the fort. And yeah, I think he's certainly a more likely outcome than anyone else who's currently in the system for that spot.
Yeah, and I don't want to get crazy about value and like, oh no, Jerry Reinsdorf can't, he shouldn't spend that money. Jerry, save your money. Of course, I think the opposite, of course. But it's not as if I would feel a little differently. And you bring up a great point, of course, the fact that Luis, I don't think, has played even 70% of games in his career, eligible games in his career. Not great. I mean, not unheard of, but not great. If he had provided, like even to a degree, Yohan Moncada ended up ending his White Sox career so poorly that I'm not quite sure that, how his real value ended. I'm guessing roughly he ended up producing a WAR or production value was roughly commensurate with his pay. Luis is there too. It's not as if he's given with these slowly escalating contracts year by year, like he was giving. He hasn't given an outrageous amount of value for his pay. I would say he's about roughly break even as well at a 15 WARs or so career player, especially when you factor in a signing bonus. So it's not as if you could say, well, you know what, he's already well earned it. Like I felt with Yohan Moncada, I was like, he plays 10 games and produces a tiny bit. I mean, we don't want that, of course, but it's a wash at worst. And that's the situation with Luis. It's just, I think, committing to him next year puts a pressure on that he really has to produce. Again, not that I care about the money, but you do, when you're a White Sox fan, unfortunately, you do have to look at the books, in your wheelhouse, but you don't want to. That's not how you want to be a fan either, even if it is in your wheelhouse, Joe. So we do have to look at it that way. We do have to look at like, okay, do we put $20 million into a center fielder who's going to play 100 games and maybe not well? I like how, I mean, everybody's so excited that he sort of figured out how to hit again for 3 weeks or something. They got hurt. So that's going to stick? There's no way that isn't going to stick. We know, I mean, we're not silly enough to say, okay, no, he's turned a corner and he's figured it out to a degree that he's Mickey Mantle now. I mean, it's not going to happen that way. I'm sure he's going to have incredible hot streaks, and he's going to have Luis Robert streaks. We've seen too much at over 5 years to think magically he's a disciplined professional hitter now. He's not. Maybe he doesn't have the way this lineup is hitting. Maybe he doesn't need to be. Maybe he can be a $20 million defensive center fielder. But anyway, as long as we're talking about Dominic Fletcher, I figured let's tie it into the actual Chicago White Sox team before we get deeper into the weeds and into the woods. Joe, it's late with the lower and lower minors players. I don't know. There's a ton more to talk about with Charlotte. I'm happy the White Sox are finding reasons to sidestep, bringing up, a certain pitcher who is just practically demanded. Man, have they released that guy yet? Boy, I hope they do soon. Jacob Gonzalez was a weekly winner in August. So was Tim Elko, whose future with the team seems to be dimming because he's not getting much opportunity. He's not quite figuring it out at the major league level with the little opportunities he's getting, which is a lot of pressure, but it's what you got to do. And of course, Blake Sable. Yeah, he's a weekly winner. Joe always having to pick a guy. Sometimes a guy just forces you to pick him. Not really a White Sox prospect, but hey, he's got to be picked. The Danny Mendick theorem. Let's move to a team we might talk a little bit more about. Birmingham, because they're awesome. Tyler Schweitzer was the pitcher of the month. Of course, he had to be. Until a fateful night on Thursday, had a offer all season long in Birmingham. When I say offer, I mean no earned runs allowed. Miraculous. Well done, Tyler. Also, of course, but yet he was not a player of the week. We had 4 other players of the week. He was just so great that Joe just tucked him away and said he's going to get the month thing. Calvin Harris, Braden Montgomery, Riley Gowans or Goins, depending on what part of Europe you come from, and Wilfred Veras, who woke back up. Poor Wilfred, man. I thought he was on a faster track. I think now he's on a no track, but let's specifically talk. We've talked about this before, but let's just touch on it again because these guys continue to grind, with the exception of Thursday night with Tanner McDougal and Tyler Schweitzer, who've been the combo. Schweitzer, the piggyback. They're the bulk combo start as they're trying to control and manage innings there at Birmingham. And then, of course, Shane Murphy, who's shouldering a little bit more on his own. He's not getting quite the kid gloves treatment, but all 3 have been spectacular, following up what was an incredible rotation, like a diamond rotation for the Birmingham Barons in 2024. This is just becoming a thing with Birmingham. So we've got at least three, I'm sorry, Riley, Goins, but at least three stellar starters who you think have maybe even pitched their way into a possible rotation mix at some point in 2026. Your thoughts on the guys, but maybe specifically with the idea of, do you send any of them? I mean, this is crazy that the White Sox have a AAA affiliate that they want their, I think, sorry, Noah Schultz, I think they want their pitchers to sort of avoid. So you sort of have to look at Birmingham as maybe the one step away from the South Side. Do you think the White Sox want to send any of these guys? These aren't arms you burn. Maybe, again, sorry, Riley, I don't know why I'm looking at him differently. He sort of like throws a lot of home run balls. He's sort of like a grinder, a little bit more a grinder pitcher. I could see him being thrown into Charlotte like, hey, prove it. These other three, I can see they might be, Tyler did not have a very good audition. Shane's pitch, I think, a game. I think that was just a weird, I don't know, transaction type of thing where he pitched a little bit at Charlotte. But Tyler's earlier or midseason audition up in Charlotte did not go well. So he's back in Birmingham. What do you think their plan is or should be with these three arms? Because, man, they've carried on the tradition of 2024, and the 2024 arms were gilded, the Drew Thorpes, the Jairo Uriartes. So Noah Schultz. So what's your assessment of these guys, and what do you think the plan will be?
Yes, so I'll start with the player of the month, Tyler Schweitzer. And by the way, sometimes it's hard to give a pitcher with 5 innings,
Yeah,
five scoreless innings. A lot of times
yeah,
there's an offensive player who,
yeah.
had an OPS of 1200 where I'm like, that's probably more valuable than 5 innings. But
Mm-hmm.
um, yeah, it was an easy decision for player of the month though, 21 scoreless, which he had a streak of 41 and 2/3 scoreless before the in Double A before the game on Thursday when he allowed 4 earned runs. So yeah, that was a heck of a streak. Bravo to Schweitzer on that one. Um, my assessment of him, yeah, it's interesting how much he has dominated Double A while having an ERA of above 7 in 50 innings
Yeah.
in Triple A. Very, very strange. I mean, yeah, you can blame part of that, I guess, on the pitcher friendliness of Birmingham relative to Charlotte, but only a small chunk of that, really. Certainly, like having an ERA of below 1 versus, nearly 8, um, is not something you can just blame on the, run environment. I do think, yeah, I probably would not give him a September call up. And it's an interesting situation just given how dominant he's been at the Double A level this year. And, I think, it could make sense. Like, for some reason, that Knights pitching staff is completely cursed. No one seems to be able to put anything together there. Well, it's rare in any case. A few of the Knights pitchers have been decent, but it's been uncommon. So yeah, I think avoiding AAA for now, I think it's a good approach. I'm just kind of a gut instinct on that one from my end, and yeah, I would see how I'd let him dominate in Double A to finish out the year and um, see how things go in spring training. And yeah, Schweitzer very well could, be in line for a spot in the staff next year at the major league level. I feel similarly about McDougal, who has, come off a very disappointing year in 2024, and, he's now one of the top prospects in the organization. Yeah, I would, he's already progressed so much this season that I'm hesitant to, um, call him up. There's the option of, having these guys, go into the majors and kind of enter the offseason with this idea, of, well, this didn't work at the major league level. It worked in Double A, but not at the majors. Maybe this is, something I should work on. That's, I think, a counter argument that, carries some weight, but I think it would feel a bit like rushing them at this point in time, I think, if they were to be promoted.
Yeah, I can't think of the last pitcher who pitched through Charlotte as a starter and sort of on merit, on Charlotte merit, for maybe more than maybe a couple starts. I want to say Sean Burke, the year prior to him getting hurt, had a pretty good momentum run, I think, at pitching at Charlotte. But it's like not even one pitcher a year. It seems ridiculous that you're like, well, let's just skip our AAA affiliate. But I don't know. I mean, if it is where pitchers go to die for whatever reason, maybe you do avoid it. I mean, I know that's sort of, I mean, a jump Double A to the majors, can really blow your hair back, but I don't know. It might be worse to have your hair blown back at Charlotte. Even if you end up winning a 9-8 game, that's not going to be too great for your numbers, as I think Tyler Schweitzer has found out. So that'll be interesting. Okay, I'm trying to play with some toys, so let's do some. All right, there we go. We got lovely Riverside platform. That applause will cue us to our break. We're going to talk about the A ball teams, probably more briefly than we did in the first half of the podcast. So maybe a shorter second half, but still, because it's shorter doesn't mean you should skip it. If Super Joseph could do a recap and do a 60-second whatever and do the first half of this podcast, you can stick around and listen a little while longer to see what he has to say and what I may chime in on in A-ball. So hang with us for a minute or two. We will be back here at Sox Pop on the Farm, number 64. Hey, White Sox fans. It's late on a Friday, and the party animal that is Joe Reeses and the party animal that is Brett Valentini are here with you talking White Sox prospects. What else would you be doing? Of course, this is what you'd be doing, especially the White Sox system, which is just full of winning. Well, we did just depart the last winning depot because we're not going to talk about rookie ball because now we're going to A ball. Not so great. The Dash are making a run at it, I guess, in the second half. Good for them. If they could have a 500 second half, that's a nice way to finish things up. Both teams just 3 worse than 500 as of recording. So, I mean, there's a chance either one or both have winning second halves. And then I'll finally shut up about the affiliates needing to win games in order to warrant high prospect ranking. Although I think the system now is already regarded. Now it's back middling because of all the graduations, right? That's what the White Sox always point to. Well, we got a bunch of guys in the majors, so of course our system stinks. As if this is like Kenny Williams trading all the prospects away like back in the day. Not the same thing, guys. But hey, I'm not going to argue with the team, this awful team, worse than the American League, beating hell out of everyone in September. Undefeated September. You heard it here. Yes, it's late on Friday. That's why I'm making such predictions. Okay, Jeral Perez for the Dash, the player of the month, also one of the players of the week. Drake Logan, also Kyle Lodisi, rookie. Good to see in A-ball a couple of the draftees making instant impacts, and the perpetual name of Caleb Bonemer. He just shows up. I think he's probably been a player of the week for the Knights, even though he hasn't played for them, because it's just so easy to rubber stamp his name. Those are the 4. Let's focus on Jeral because he has been with the Dash all year. I want his numbers to be even better. He has robust power, and that's really exciting for any position for the White Sox, certainly for an infielder. He's playing young for the level. I think he's handled himself very well. Hey, got player of the month from Joe Reeses. He's handling the level fine. Are you happy with his progress? Does he? I mean, it is a very crowded, particularly with the way the White Sox are playing right now. It's a crowded middle infield and infield situation now. Not that the White Sox are so good that we're not going to take better players on the south side. So that's not really a problem, but that's where the White Sox have focused their talent. He's one of them, acquisition and trade. Has he done what was expected? Are you still sunny, very sunny, somewhat sunny on his future? I mean, he's the guy probably still to speak of. Sorry, Caleb, you're a newcomer on the dash among the dash bats. So give me a little thought on Jeral Perez.
He had a very good month of August. I think overall, looking at the big picture, his season has been decent. I mean, playing mostly second base with some shortstop mixed in there. Those are, valuable positions, and his defense at second base has been pretty darn good. So that is you know gives him some leeway in terms of sort of the mid-season slump that he went on, and generally I tend to weigh the more recent information more heavily, and the most recent information right now is pretty darn good. So I would say yeah, my opinion of Perez is pretty positive at the moment. I would say he's done a bit better than I would have expected. It's not hasn't been a massive difference in terms of expectations versus reality. But yeah, that was certainly a very very nice month that he had, and yeah, definitely played a big role in that random Winston Salem 15-12 month that I wasn't sure they'd get a month like that this season. So yeah, he played a big role in that. The 402 OBP with 4 homers. That was some good stuff from his end.
Touched on another topic that seems to come up among South Side Sox and Sox Populi staff discussions. So I'll ask for your opinion, and you sort of, I think you did agree, not that you had to, on Luis Robert Jr. So maybe this will go that way too. Who is going to be the most valuable piece of the trade deadline deal of 2024? Miguel Vargas or Jeral Perez?
It's a very good question. Yeah, I remember they fixed Vargas's swing earlier this year, but he kind of has hasn't kept up that momentum
Yeah.
as much as
Yeah.
I would have liked.
Yeah.
That was really something though. I'm gonna go with Perez on this one. I think the he has a chance of reaching an a very high level, whereas Vargas I feel like is close to his peak, and even with that surge after they fixed his swing, like he's still only at not even a war with the White Sox overall due to how poorly his tenure with the White Sox started.
Sorry.
So he still needs still hasn't really gotten too far off the ground. So I think Perez. I'm a bit more bullish on Perez.
Well, you can tell it's late or something's wrong here. Joe needs to go back to the drawing board because now he's basically agreed with my positions on two different essay questions tonight here on the podcast. So something's up, something's weird in the air because that can't stand, Joe. You got to change that for next podcast. But yeah, I mean, I agree. I'm pretty down on Vargas, and there's no reason to be. I'm not angry at it. It's just he's not that. I mean, as much as John Schriffen wants to tell us they fixed the swing. Oh my God, he's good, screw great, and his voice will crack or whatever when he hits a deep fly ball or whatever. And he's produced. Obviously, Jeral is 2 steps away from. He's far away from the majors. So I mean, it is the premise of my question is a little outrageous because you've got a guy who's on the injured list in the major leagues and a guy who's playing at high A. But just projecting overall value because we're trying to look at getting something for what was a pretty significant trade. It's easy to say that those guys, Kopech's hurt in 2025 and Eric Fetty's been released by everybody and the White Sox didn't even want him back. Well, okay. Well, that's not what they traded. So anyway, um, Well, all right. We got to. Here's how I want to talk about Caleb Bonemer. When you think about, given that the White Sox have put such an emphasis on, well, more of an emphasis than they have like ever, but recent emphasis on, you could argue bat discipline, bat and ball skills, middle infield, which those things you could say go hand in hand, not necessarily, but they can, um, in recent drafts. So they've got a bit of a crowded middle infield situation, which is fine because those guys can go to, as we've seen with Brooks Baldwin, hey, they can just suddenly be a left fielder or a center fielder, or they'll play first base or wherever they're going to play. Pretty useful to have a shortstop, a guy who can field shortstop. Pretty much gives you the ability to play, I guess, just about anywhere else. So while it's not a problem, when you think about the middle infield or even infield prospects for the White Sox, in terms of the ones that get you most excited, we can go all down to Javier Maguillon or up to Jacob Gonzalez at AAA, or the recent Billy Carlson, the recent draftee, Jeral Perez, or I don't know, Caleb Bonemer. I mean, who are a couple names that really jump at you in terms of what you've observed all year about the system, guys that you're most excited about or think still have a good amount of upside? Jacob Gonzalez is a guy who's like, wow, he even got promoted to Charlotte. Geez, why? He's held his own okay. But I mean, he's sort of been, I don't say flatline, but he's not demanded to get into the major leagues. So not to make that answer for you, but a couple guys that, impress you the most or get you most excited.
I think Bonemer's got to be at the top of the list
Yeah.
right now. He is doing just about everything right. Yeah, still only 19 years old. First professional season, and frankly, with how well he was doing in Kannapolis, I understand it's his first professional season, but I was surprised he was there for as long as he was.
Mhm.
Just got promoted near the end of August to Winston-Salem. Just he was really, really hitting it well, and as you said, playing shortstop, seemingly doing a pretty good job with it. And that, and also he's been quite a threat on the base paths as well. 29 steals in 37 attempts. I mean, it's very difficult to find especially a second round pick. The White Sox have had a lot of trouble with those, who have, and a position player at that, who is just immediately starting their professional career and
Yeah,
is just firing on all cylinders like that.
and
And yeah,
from Michigan. I mean, no diss on that, but I mean, that's different than than Billy Carlson, who played 850 games this year. You're not playing a lot of games. You're playing like in the snow. Maybe it makes you tougher. I don't know. You're playing in the snow. You're not getting a lot of games in. You're not getting as many games. And I know these guys all play all summer and they tour the world and all that. But it's still that the White Sox have drafted a number of sort of local guys, infielders as well, and then they don't pan out. I mean, Colson Montgomery. It took his major league per diem to like emerge the way he has emerged, and bless you, Colson, because just I don't know, a podcast ago we were skeptical about what was going on with you. But then you see Wes Kath, the equivalent pick from a few drafts earlier, who is on the verge of flaming out of the White Sox system. That identical pick is, essentially is Caleb Bonemer, and he's just gone bananas. His assignment to Kannapolis to begin the season, I thought, oh, this is interesting. This is a little aggressive for a guy, again, coming from less games played. Not that that really, really matters, but very young, and they're just throwing him in April. Go, man. And he's not going to not play. He's not there to observe. Ryan Burroughs had killed it in the DSL, had killed it in ACL, and still he only got a little cup of coffee at the end of that ACL season just to observe. He wasn't even playing because let's protect him. I don't know, maybe just throwing guys in on the deep end is what works the way they do with Colson Montgomery. Yeah, you're still not really doing it, Charlotte. Hey, let's play in the majors, see what happens. Because man, with Caleb, you just can't imagine it going better. It's so nice to have this story. I mean, we're waiting for that next Frank Thomas, who just comes out. Yeah, next Frank Thomas, like it's going to happen. But the next player of that caliber, and I guess we're getting close with Colson, Caro, Teal, who just comes up and hits the ground running. And the equivalent of the system would just be start out, I guess the way Colson did, really hot in the system and never look back. And boy, a full season at this point, even with the wheels, holding it up defensively. I mean, this is a guy that you almost think is a no-brainer. Sorry for a spoiler alert. No-brainer position player of the year in the system, because you could say, hey, well, who else is there? But also, he's lapped the field. This is like Luis Robert Jr. dominating in whatever stops he was in the minors, because at pretty much at all points, I think he just killed it. And you're not really thinking to equate Caleb Bonemer, no offense to the Michigan's player of the year for 2 years, with and laughing at that being a comparison to Luis Robert Jr. But come on, if Joe Rieses was surprised by this performance, then you have a right as a fan out there listening to be surprised at what the heck is a Caleb Bonemer, because I don't even know if I'm for sure even pronouncing his name right, which tells you, how out of the blue this guy is. Sorry, Caleb, if I haven't. I hope it is Caleb too. Joe, you can correct me, if I'm wrong, but well chosen. Anybody? Okay, given that he's the no-brainer winner, someone else has snuck on me. Is it Perez? Is it Maguillon? Is it Jacob Gonzalez? He has scrapped his way to AAA.
And this could be a pitcher or a position player.
No, I'm just saying in the middle infield. I mean, given the White Sox have such a group, guys have sort of raised your eyebrows.
Ooh.
That answer may indicate that it's sort of Caleb Bonemer and bust.
No, it's a good question. Would I go with Perez here? It's a close one, I think. I'll take a flyer. I'll give it to Mogollon on this one.
Okay.
I think between his plate discipline and good defense, good base running, he's has a lot of tools that are useful. It's not just relying on one sort of skill set. He's very well rounded, and still very very young. Still like Bonemer, only 19, and he hasn't really been. I really didn't expect him to make much of an impact this season. But he's been a very reliable hitter overall. Haven't seen a ton of power from him, but that wasn't really expected. And when you're as good at fielding as he is and as fast as he is, a lot of times you don't necessarily need a whole lot of power to stand out, especially at his position. So I think I'd give him the runner-up medal on that.
I pushed it very much to shortstop, and that's a mean move for me, because then I'm ignoring William Bergoya, who has done very well at Birmingham. I think he needs to be mentioned here because he has a lot of the very same weapons that you just listed Maguillon is having. I won't necessarily throw Mario Camilletti in there, even though he has been promoted to Charlotte, and he actually has done all right in his first few games. I'm not sure, necessarily what the purpose of that is, but hey, man, you get the opportunity to run with it. So I think I don't want to ignore Bergoya either. I think I was like most excited about him as a prospect, I think, just one podcast ago. So sorry, William, I decided to ignore you here, but I guess you're my vote. Sorry. Even over Caleb Bonemer. Forget you, Caleb. You're from Michigan. I don't. Come on. You're going to hit the wall. No, hey, it's great to actually be able to have a discussion where there are maybe a few of these players. If we could be so rich and deep at every position, Joe, we probably don't necessarily need to do much. Not that we haven't sort of touched it in talking about Bonemer. Jesus Mendez was the Canapolis Player of the Month, getting his first, I want to say, some of his first closing opportunities. Certainly got his first saves of the year in August. Caleb Bonemer twice, a weekly winner. Grant Umberger, who had or is still having, I don't know, an amazing run as an undrafted free agent into the White Sox system. Hey, we need anybody who can run with anything, any opportunity, take the ball and run with it. And another recent draftee, Anthony DePino. Uh, always interesting when you draft like a first baseman only. No offense to like Jake Berger or any of the countless first basemen we've drafted over the years, but always interesting when you do that with anything close to a higher pick. But again, a guy who's taking his opportunity and run with it, mashing hell out of the ball. Is there anybody in Kannapolis or in the system that we're missing to make sure to give a little love or shine to here for August or heading into the stretch run of the season? I mean, low A is nearly done at this point last week. But anybody we missed that I'm going to regret not talking about, Joe?
Let's see. I think you've pretty much touched on the main ones. You know, every time I look at, Jordan Sprinkle's stolen base numbers, I'm always amazed. I will say, I'm not very high on him as a 24-year-old in low A with
Oh,
a slugging percentage that starts with a 2 right now for the season. Um,
yeah.
but it is.
I love seeing it. You're right.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, I even still, I'm always amazed whenever I look at his stolen base numbers. Let's see. I suppose I could give a shout out to Ricardo Brizuela, who was very good in August as well. Not quite enough to steal the monthly award, but he did have a very good month. Hasn't been the year that he would have wanted overall, but I don't know. Maybe he could turn the corner. Maybe
Sure,
August was the start of
sure.
something. Yeah, it was a very very nice month for him. So I'll throw his name in there as well.
And Joe, I'm bearing the lead of this entire podcast. Lucas Gordon, at long last, gets what seems to be a permanent. We'll see what permanent means because he had already pitched one game in Double A and then got sent back to Birmingham, aiding the stretch run in the playoffs. There's no stretch run when you've already won the division, right? They pretty much clinched it, I think. Hey, this is a guy we've talked about and scratched our head about, like, hey, come on, he's not that. Okay, so he's soft tossing a little bit, eats innings, gets guys out. He's the new Tanner McDougal because I think he's 1-10 with an ERA less than 4. So yeah, go to Birmingham, get the ERA down to like 150, and maybe win a couple games because Birmingham's good. Colin, Lucas, we're rooting for you. All right, Joe. Listen, we got to guilt a few of our other minors writers into what will probably be the year in recap. I don't know, maybe we'll do something maybe that specifically is attuned to the Barons playoff run or the Barons on the verge of the playoffs or just looking at the Barons because they're in the playoffs. I mean, forgive us for getting excited. The White Sox, since I've been doing Southside Sox and doing these types of podcasts, have had 3 playoff teams in 8, 9 seasons. So, forgive me for getting excited when they make the playoffs, or irrationally angry when the ACL White Sox are cheated out of the playoffs despite tying for first place. Not cool, ACL. Just come. You just end up. The whole ACL is just a bunch of scrimmages on backfields anyway. Nobody shows up. They're playing in 150 degrees, either at 10 in the morning or 7 at night. You couldn't have squeezed one more game in, made it exciting, gotten 25 fans out instead of 18 friends and relatives of players. Boy, Joe, if we just ran the ACL, it'd be so different. And then we have to live in Arizona. I don't know. Probably not appealing to you. For me, I don't know. These days, Joe, anywhere might be better. But that's a different podcast. And we will not discuss that in this one because we're already well into this. We look forward to perhaps the return of Melissa Sage Wollenbach, Hannah Filippo, or, of course, the one and only Christina Erdo. Or maybe special guests. Who knows? Maybe we'll have staffed up at the end of the season. That'd be a good place to staff up. People don't have to write the updates. Yeah, I want to do minors, and then in April they leave without a forwarding address. So hopefully we'll get 1, 2, or 3 of them to join us for our wrap up or Birmingham kudos or whatever it's going to be. It probably will be our final of the year, but that is a month from now, Joe, or something like it. Maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, but we'll do it again. I will only press you for this. Probably not after you've covered all day. And, like, I don't know, worked a job all day. Probably won't force you to do that. We'll time the podcast a little differently, maybe in a month. So it's just going to be a little bit easier on you. But thank you for the extra effort on behalf of our staff from the majors all the way down to the DSL, Joe. You're now dismissed. Enjoy what the remaining minutes of your day and stay away from Sox Populi, Fans First Sports Network podcast for as long as you can before I drag you back to talk more about the system. But thanks for the insight once again. And let's talk in a month, huh?
Yeah, sounds like a plan.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, watching, whatever it is you're doing, reading us. We still got those nightly minor league updates. We're going to have them through later September because we got a long Charlotte season to cover and Birmingham. Birmingham might be the last team standing. Not sure how the timing will be, but I think there's a chance they could be the last team standing once again this year. Wow. Way to go, Birmingham. You give us reasons to live here on the farm. Anyway, we will catch you in a month or so. Thanks everybody for listening. And, see you when we talk about September.